Using the texture by feel technique on clays can be much more difficult. The aggregates and clay particles can be very hard and difficult to break up. As they dry, these shrink swell clay, some of those begin to break into much smaller pieces. But you see the angles on them. It's just very difficult sometimes to break the aggregates. They can be very hard. Plus, these shrink swell clays will absorb a lot of water. So you can spray them with water, start to get them wet, and then in just a little bit of time, it'll look like they haven't hardly been wet at all. And so it's a process. You get them wet, you wait a little bit, you get them wet again, you wait a little bit, and so the process just continues. And so it can take a long time to prepare a clay to do the texture by feel. See, I've sprayed that earlier and it almost looks dry now. And then you can begin to break pieces off. But again, that water didn't go very deep. So it's going to take a long time to work this one up and get it ready. Now I've come back to it 5 minutes later. Very little is wet yet. I still have to break up all of those aggregates. I added some more soil just because it takes a lot of, because the clay will ribbon so long. So I'll get these wet again, let them sit here for a while, go do something else, and continue the process until I can get all the aggregates broken up. And then I'll start the process of kneading them and trying to make a ribbon. After several cycles of wetting, letting it set, and then wetting it some more, breaking up the aggregates. There's still some aggregates in here, so I'm going to let the process go a little bit longer as I continue to break these aggregates up. The aggregates will not allow you to form the ribbons correctly because the aggregates themselves will cause the ribbon to break. But you can get an idea of the clay content in this soil when you smear it like that, and you can see that it shines. So that's another indication that we're working with the clay. So this is just about ready to work. I let it sit maybe a little bit too long, dried out a little bit too much. But I'm going to work it now and we'll see what happens. So you take the soil, we're going to put it in our hand here, just like we do with any soil. There's still a lot of aggregates that I can feel. I'm hoping that as I start working it that I can break those up. But you can even see those chunks in there. So I'm going to try and get most of that. Now then, so I spray it, and then I try and work it together. And you can see this one smears and is even shiny. That's another one of those indications of the clay content. And because it's still absorbing water, and I still feel the aggregates in it, what I'm going to do is make a bowl. Because it's still got a lot of those chunks. Remember, an aggregate is just a group of soil particles that are holding together. And like all those little ones there, those are not particles, those are aggregates. And you can probably even see some of the chunks in that one. So I'm going to put some water in there and just let it absorb that water for a little bit. And as you watch, the water is soaking in to that soil. The clay is absorbing it. Now I'm going to turn it, work that in, and then I'm going to do the same thing from the other side. This soil has given me a lot of hints that it's got a lot of clay in it, but I want to see how far it'll ribbon. So I'm going to keep this process up for a little bit longer. Make another big bowl. Fill that big bowl with water. And you watch the water just soak in. A little slower this time. I'm going to go through this process a couple of more times and then see what it'll do when we come back when we're ready to make a ribbon. Another one of those really interesting things, you can see how thin I can make that go. That's because clays are extremely plastic, have a lot of cohesion, so they hold on to each other. They're plastic, they're moldable, and I can just keep squishing that out and it gets thinner and thinner. It's almost ready to ribbon. All right, I've got the aggregates worked out. So now then I make this worm. Give me a starting place. Even notice the worm itself can be really long. And then I squeeze and move. And I'm going to keep doing that until it falls over by its own weight. Then when it does that, that's when that's where it was trying to break. That's the point where I'm going to measure that and use that to estimate the clay content. So the first one is about, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now with my finger, I've done this a lot, so I've got it kind of estimated that's about 20%, and so about 30%, about 40%. So this is more than 40% clay in this one. And doing ribbons is a bit of an art and a science. The science behind it is that the clay is what helps hold it together, because this very small particle sizes of the clay, they have a lot of cohesion as those little particles stick to each other. And so the more clay that the soil has in it, the longer that ribbon will go. 20, 30, 40. Yeah, again, more than 40%. You can also notice, though, that even now this soil is beginning to dry, and you can see that by the cracks that are forming in it. That's another indication that clay is at work absorbing the water. So even though it started out really wet, it's continually absorbing the water, and if I work this very much longer, I'm going to have to add some more water to it. But I'm going to ribbon it one more time and just see what we come up with. And again, breaks off about that same spot. 20, 30, 40, more than 50% clay, I think, in this one.